What's up, nerds? Here's my Royal Knights deck profile. Starting off with our Tama, we are obviously playing for Drizzy Drake. Breeding your turn, all of your Digimon can't Evo. Keep in mind that is only on your turn, so you can blast Evo on your opponent. Then breeding your turn, once per turn, when a Royal Knight trait Digimon card would be played, you may reduce the play cost by 4, further reduce it by 1 for each of this Digimon's sources. And then also breeding starting your main phase, reveal the top card of your Digi deck, then place that card and all of your Royal Knight trait Digimon as its Digimon's bottom sources. And the inheritable is breeding your turn once per turn. When an option card, the Royal Knight trait is placed in the battle area, gain 1 memory. Obviously, linchpin of the deck. Onto our rookies, we are actually playing 2 Sistermon Blanc from Starter Deck 12. On play by trashing a card in your hand, draw 2, and then all turns while you have a Digimon with Huckmon in its name or the Royal Knight trait, this Digimon gains Decoy, Red, and Black. So we're actually only playing 7 different Royal Knight trait Digimon. So this is a way to get some of your duplicates out of your hand and dig deeper into your deck for other cards that you might want to see, and also having Decoy is pretty nice. This is also a good turn 1 or turn 2 play where you're not really going to have a lot of reduction on your Drazel. On to our 4s. We are playing 4 Omekamon from BT13. 4 cost to hard play. On play, draw 1. That's one of the best parts of this card. And then on deletion, you place a Royal Knight trait Digimon from your hand underneath your Drazel in your raising area. Really good if you're not playing against blue specifically, or a deck that has like bouncing or bot decking or whatever, because basically you're always going to get that off whether he lives and you crash into security or whatever. And then we're of course playing 4 of the new Omekamon from BT20. Has blocker, which is pretty useful. And then on play, if you have 1 or fewer security cards, Digimon may warp Evo into an Omni X in the hand, ignoring Digivolution requirements without paying the cost. Obviously, if you hard play this and you still have your Drazel in your breeding area, you can't do that because you can't Evo on your turn, but there's more. On deletion, you may place this card as the bottom source of your King Drazel in the breeding area. So he does tuck himself, which is pretty cool. He basically does the same thing Omekamon does, except for it's him and not a Royal Knight trait. And then the breeding inheritable is opponent's turn. When your security stack is removed from, by suspending this Digimon, play 1 Omekamon from this Digimon's evolution cards without paying the cost. So this is really annoying if you get one of these in your stack early, because you can constantly put it back on the field every time your opponent pokes you, and then he has blockers, so you just block and then he goes back in. Obviously you can only do that once on your opponent's turn because it does suspend your Drazel for cost, but it's just annoying having your opponent fight through this. And also, if they do check your security and you end up at 1 or fewer security, when you play this guy on your opponent's turn, you can then warp into Omni X in your hand, and it's like an absolute blowout if they're not prepared for that. However, it is their fault if they're not prepared for that, because obviously that's going to happen. And then our other level 4s, we are playing 4 BT13 Magnamon, 7 to hard play, and on turn 0, he is a 2 cost to play because you get 4 reduction from Drazel, and then it tucks the top Drazel, so it reduces them by 5. So this is one of your best turn 0 plays, is just play this guy for 2 memory. He does have blocker, which is really helpful. And then all turns when this Digimon will leave the battle area, draw 1. Then you can play a Vmon from your hand or this Digimon sources, whatever. We're not playing any Vmons, that's not going to come up, but you do get to draw a card as an interruptive effect, which is pretty nice. It digs you deeper into your deck, and that'll happen whether it gets absorbed into your Drazel or you have to block or whatever. And that is it. We're just playing 12 4s, and we are not playing any 5s. Onto the 6s, we are playing 3 Jesmon from BT20. On play or when digivolving, you may play 1 whatever the hell token. It is a white 6000 DP Digimon with reboot, blocker, and decoy, red and black, which is really helpful. And then your turn once per turn, when any of your other Digimon are played, delete 1 of your opponent's Digimon with 8000 DP or less, then 1 of your Digimon may attack. This does not allow you to ignore summoning sickness. I see people ask this. It has to be a legal target to declare an attack. However, this effect right here does come up. There's a combo where you can actually gain memory the turn you drop your Omnimon, and I'll go over that at the end of the video just so you guys know. And then we are playing 3 BT13 Gallant. Does start off at 13 play cost, but he reduces himself as well as your Drazel reducing it. When you would play this card from your hand, if you have no Digimon in play, reduce the play cost by 2 for every 5 total cards in both players' trashes. He does have Rush, which is helpful. And then on play, when digivolving or when attacking, not once per turn, delete 1 of your opponent's Digimon with 6000 DP or less. If no opponent's Digimon was deleted by this effect, delete 1 of their Digimon with 13,000 DP or more. So this is really helpful for keeping your opponent's board clear as well as getting in nice little pokes. And that is a big theme of this deck, is having things on the field that you can just poke with, because you don't actually need BT13 Omnimon to win anymore, especially how I designed this deck. You can just kill your opponent just with a stuff that you just put on the field. Like, yes, your Royal Knights will get absorbed, but like your Mechamons don't, your Sistermons don't, the token from the Justmon doesn't, and there's a lot of ways to just chip your opponent down until they're at a position where you can just kill them. And then our last level 6s, we're playing 4 Medieval Gallantmon from EX8. Super busted card in this deck because obviously you're going to be able to trigger this every single turn because you're hard playing Digimon. That's how your deck works. So when this guy would be played, by suspending 2 Digimon, reduce play cost by 4. So you're usually going to be able to put something on the field. So if your opponent has 1 Digimon in play, this guy's probably going to be live for you. And then he has Alliance and Vortex. And when Digivolving, you may suspend 1 Digimon, then you may delete one of your opponent's Digimon with 8,000 DP or lower. For each other suspended Digimon, add 3,000 to this DP deletion effect's maximum. So with 2 other suspended Digimon on the field, he goes up to 14k. So it's pretty easy just to blow anything up. And then all turns once per turn, when Digimon are played, you may activate one of these Digimons when Digivolving effects. So this guy will PP on your opponent. If you establish a Medieval Gallantmon and your opponent can't answer it basically almost immediately, you're almost always going to win that game because it's very difficult to handle this deck when this guy's just going to sit on the field every single turn and just pop one of their things on the field. And in addition to that, this is 2 checks every turn because you play out a Knight and then you swing with him with Alliance for 2 checks for like massive damage. So yeah, like they're on a clock. Like this is like one of the best cards in the deck, and that's why I'm playing 4 because it's unsearchable. And that is it. We're just playing 10 6s. On to our 7s, which we're playing quite a few. I am playing 3 Justmon GX Ace from BT20. So you can Blast Evo this on top of any of your red Digimon that are level 6, which if you were paying attention, that is literally all 10 of them. They're all red or at least half red. So you can blast this guy. That's not why I'm playing him in as such a high number, but that is a really helpful utility. So he's 9 to drop, which is really cool because he's free basically like past like turn 3 or 4 of the game. On play, when Digivolving, when attacking, once per turn, by placing 1 Royal Knight trait card from your hand or trash as its Digimon's bottom source, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with as much or less DP as this Digimon. So that lets you tuck anything, including options that have the Royal Knight trait. So it's basically always going to be live, even if you don't actually have a Digimon. And then you can just pop anything 16k or lower. And then when attacking once per turn, this Digimon unsuspends, and for every 2 Royal Knight trait cards in this Digimon's sources, trash your opponent's top security card. You're basically never going to get the trash effect. However, the fact that this guy is a double swing is pretty ignorant if you can bring him out with a rush, which is obviously what Purge does. This guy basically allows me to play how I used to play this deck. If any of you guys have seen my old Royal Knight builds on the channel, where I played Justmon GX, the original one from ET10, and the 3-cost option that lets him unsuspend. And this guy just lets you purge him out and you just get a double swing while blowing something up. It's no longer a 3-card combo, it's just a 2-card combo, which is really cool. So this is one of the ways you can just chip your opponent down to where like there's nothing they can do, you're just going to kill them without Omnimon. Then we're also playing 3 Alphamon Oryukin Ace from BT20, also 9 to hard drop. You're never going to be able to DNA into this guy, however you can hard evo into him if you've already Omnimoned. Basically never going to come up, but this guy is really helpful for the Magna X matchup because it is a clean out to Magnamon X. On player, when Digivolving, one of your opponent's Digimon gets minus 15,000 DP until the end of their turn. Then if DNA Digivolving, trash your opponent's top security card and recover +1. You're not going to get that second effect. But all turns once per turn, when a security stacks are removed from, gain 3 memory. This is really helpful if you can get this guy on the field and then poke your opponent's security. It's just an extra 3 memory to do whatever you want. And then if he stays on the field, it's something your opponent has to play around on their turn, because you can like choke them to 1 or 2 and have this guy on the field, and if they poke you, they just pass turn without a memory blocker. But yeah, this guy is basically a Wyvern's Breath on legs. He's super ignorant. And then we are playing 2 Gallantmon Crimson Mode Ace from BT17. So this guy can Blast Evo on top of all of our level 6s, which is really cool. And then on play, when Digivolving, delete up to 15,000 DP total worth of your opponent's Digimon, which is really nice. Tall and wide boards fall to this guy. And then when attacking once per turn, for every 10 total cards in both players' trashes, trash the top card of your opponent's security stack. So this guy is not a Royal Knight, fun fact. So if you ever hard slam this guy, or if you even blast into him and they don't kill him like basically immediately, he is also another potential just lethal threat out of nowhere, which is really cool. And then we are playing 3 Omnimon from BT13. As I said, you don't actually need this guy to win anymore. So I actually cut him down from 4 to 3 because the games that you do need him to win, almost always you will have one in your hand by the time you want to play him and pop off on your opponent. but seeing him like early and having him clog your hand kind of sucks because he costs 14 memory, and even with like a 4 or 5 turn Drazel, he's still going to be like 4 or 5 memory most of the time, which is pretty ridiculous. And I'd much rather just play something else that costs way less memory to out something on my opponent's field if I'm just trying to do a value play on that turn. However, he does win the game for you if you do have everything set up. So on play or when digivolving, you may delete one of your opponent's Digimon or play one of each Digimon with the Royal Knight trait and different names from the Digivolution cards of one of your Digimon in the breeding area without paying the cost. When a Digimon is played by this effect, trash your Digimon in the breeding area and all of your Digimon gain rush for the turn. So when you go into this guy, if you play out the stuff from your Drazel, it's always game unless you're just forced to defensively do it, which I guess can come up, but you're almost nearly going to kill them every time you do this just because of all the stuff we have access to. And then we are playing 3 more level 7s. We are playing 3 Omni X from BT20. So this guy does cost 16 to hard play. However, that's not even that bad for his effect, honestly. Like I would much rather have this guy clog my hand than this guy. However, that's still not a reason for me to play 4. So he has Raid, Piercing, and Blocker, which is pretty nice. And then on player when digivolving, if Omnimon or X anybody's in this Digimon's sources, choose one of both players' Digimon and delete all other Digimon, then return one of your opponent's Digimon to the bottom of the deck. So just so you guys know, because of how effects work in this game, this last sentence, then return one of your opponent's Digimon to the bottom of the deck, always happens. So you can just hard play this guy and bot deck one of their dudes. And then end of your turn, once per turn, one of your Digimon may gain rush for the turn and attack without suspending. So this will let you poke them. Like you can drop this guy, bot deck something, and then attack, and then you can raid into one of their dudes if it's unsuspended, or if it's not unsuspended, you can just swing over it. And this guy does have piercing, really strong effect. And if you guys remember what this guy does, this guy lets you warp into this guy for free, and this guy actually is also treated as X antibody by rule, so it lets you get the full effect of the Omni X, which is really stupid because it completely clears your opponent's board. It does clear your board as well though, so you do need to be careful about how you set that up. You don't want to just blow up a whole bunch of your stuff, especially if you have aces on the field, because you just hand your opponent extra memory for no reason. And that is it. We're playing 15 level 7s. On to our tamers. We are playing 4 BT20 Cool Boy. This guy is an incredible addition to this archetype. At your turn, when your Digimon are played or digivolve, if any of them have the Royal Knight trait, by suspending this tamer, draw 1 and gain 1 memory. So he functionally reduces your hard play cost by 1 for each one you have in play. So it's like an additional reduction besides your Drazel. It also lets you get around Psychmon and stuff, sort of. Like you can hard play one of your aces and gain some memory back to where it's not like the end of the world and you're not giving your opponent like 10 memory to out their Psychmon. And then the opponent's turn, once per turn, when any of your Digimon with the Royal Knight trait would leave the battle area, you may play one Omecamon from your hand without paying the cost. That is really cool. The fact that it's interruptive actually lets you do some cute things and also lets you blow them out with Omecamon as well. So these are both interruptive effects. You can actually order this to where you draw a card off the Magnamon first. Like let's say you don't have an Omecamon in your hand. You can draw off the Magnamon, see if you dig into an Omecamon, and then you can play it off the Cool Boy. And then obviously you can play this guy, and if you have 1 or fewer security, you can warp into the Omni X and blow your opponent out. So that's another little trap card you can set up, which is pretty nice. So that lets you defend yourself even if you have 0 security on your opponent's turn, because like Magnamon has blocker, so you can just block and just be like boom, Omni X, get destroyed. And that is it. We're just playing 4 of those guys. On to the options. We are playing 4 Last Guardian from BT20. 4 cost option, then main, reveal the top 3 cards of your deck, add 1 Cool Boy and 1 card with Royal Knight or X anybody trade among them to the hand, put the rest on the bottom of the deck, then place this card in the battle area. So that is very nearly every card in the deck, because both the Omecamons have X antibody in their traits. The only cards it doesn't add are the Sistermon Blancs, the Medieval Gallants, and the Crimson modes. But it adds like basically everything else. So it's the best searcher in the deck. This card existing was why I was comfortable cutting Dynasmon from this deck. And then all turns, when any of your Digimon with Omnimon in their names will leave the battle area, delay, one of those Digimon doesn't leave. That is really helpful for when you stick like this guy on the field and your opponent is trying to like, I don't know, bounce it to maybe try to attack so you can't block or whatever. You can just be like, no, doesn't leave. Or you can actually do this if you've already had this on the field and your Drazel goes to absorb it. You can just trash this to be like, nope, he's staying. which can come up if you're trying to lethal your opponent or something like that. And then the security effect is you may play one Omecamon or Cool Boy from your hand or trash without paying the cost, then place this card in the battle area. Also really cool. And this does have Royal Knight trait though, so it searches itself, which is really helpful. And then we are playing 4 Royal Knights of the Purge from BT13, 6 cost option, main draw 1. You may place one Digimon card from your hand as the bottom source of one of your Drazels in the breeding area, then place this card in the battle area. So this is something that didn't really come up super often before this set came out, but you can actually tuck any Digimon from this card. So like you can just force an Omecamon into your sources off of this card, which is pretty helpful. If like you're playing against like a bounce deck or whatever, like you can just put this in your sources and you're just like, I'm set. And then main delay, play a Royal Knight trait card from the Digivolution cards of a Digimon in the breeding area without paying the cost. Then on play effects on the Digimon, play bonus effect on activate, and they gain rush for the turn. So this is how you pop your GX out and get a double swing. And then security, just place this card in the battle area. So these cost 4 and 6 memory obviously, but once your Drazel absorbs the other 3 Drazels in your stack, you gain 3 memory back once per turn off of playing each one of these. Like this turns into a 3 memory card and this turns into a 1 memory card, which is really, really cool. And that is it. We're just playing 8 options. Now I'll show you guys that combo I was talking about earlier. All right, so for that combo, you need obviously the BT13 Omni, and then you need an Oryukin in your stack or on the field somehow. Then you either need a Jesmon or an Omni X. So what this will allow you to do, you play this guy out and he's gonna be reduced by whatever, and you can play out these dudes, and these guys both will serve the same purpose in this situation. So like basically these are the same card. So this guy minus 15k whatever, this guy will bot deck something, or this guy will play a token and then delete an 8000 DP or lower Digimon. So what this guy will allow you to do is then declare an attack with one of your Digimon, and as long as your opponent has 1 or more security, you can just swing and you check the security, and then this guy will gain you 3 memory. So it functionally, this little combo will reduce this guy further by 3 memory, which can come up if you're like forced to try to kill your opponent before like he's actually like free, or if your opponent chokes you to 1 and he costs like 2 memory or whatever. And then this guy is functionally the same thing because you'll pass turn, air quotes, and then he will let you declare an attack. You can just attack with him or whatever, doesn't really matter. You check security and then you gain 3 memory and pull turn back over with his effect. So that's something that can come up, so I wanted to mention it. But there's all kinds of little cute interactions that you have access to with this deck. I'll be posting gameplay of this deck in the near future, and once those videos go live, they'll be in the pinned comment below. This was this week's members only poll winner. If you guys are interested in voting in future members only polls to decide what I play at my locals the following week, consider becoming a member. The join button is where the subscribe button used to be if you're already subscribed. But if you guys have any questions or anything I didn't address, feel free to leave them down in the comments. But I appreciate you guys stopping by. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy seeing this kind of content. Want to come back for more. But until next time, see ya.